He was 52 years old, deeply in debt, and convinced that wealth was something that happened to other people, people born into the right families, with the right connections, the right education. He had worked hard his entire life. Harder than most. And yet, no matter how many hours he put in, no matter how many sacrifices he made, the money never stayed. It came in through one door and vanished out the other. He thought he was cursed. Then one afternoon, a man handed him a worn, dog-eared copy of a book. It wasn't a new book. It wasn't a complicated book. But the ideas inside it hit him like lightning. He read it over and over again, not once, not twice, but dozens of times, until one shattering idea finally broke through the surface of his conscious mind and sank deep into his bones. The problem was never the economy. The problem was never his boss, his circumstances, or his past. The problem was always, and only, what he believed in the deepest, most hidden chambers of his own mind. That man went on to become a millionaire. And then he became a teacher. For over 6 decades, he traveled the world, standing in front of thousands of people in packed auditoriums, looking into eyes full of doubt and confusion, and saying the same thing he had once needed someone to say to him. You are not trapped by your circumstances. You are trapped by your thinking. And thinking can be changed. His name was Bob Proctor. And what he understood, what he spent his life trying to give away, is the mental method that separates those who accumulate wealth from those who only dream about it. Today, we're going to teach it to you. Most people approach money the wrong way. They approach it as if it were a physical problem, a math problem, an effort problem, a strategy problem. They ask, how do I earn more? What investment should I make? What skills should I develop? And while those questions have their place, Bob Proctor spent decades pointing to a deeper, more fundamental truth. The money you earn in the outer world is always a precise reflection of what is happening in your inner world. That is not a metaphor. That is a law, as reliable and impersonal as gravity. Bob Proctor was not born into wealth. He grew up in difficult circumstances, dropped out of school, and spent his young adult years bouncing between jobs he hated. When he first encountered the work of Napoleon Hill at the age of 26, he was earning $4,000 a year and drowning in $6,000 of debt. Within a year of studying and applying the mental principles he discovered, he had earned over $175,000. Not because he found a better job. Not because the economy changed. Because he changed on the inside. What Bob Proctor taught, drawing on the work of Hill, Thomas Troward, and the great mental science tradition, was a complete system for financial transformation that begins not in a bank account but in the mind. It begins with understanding what your mind actually is, how it works, and why most people are unconsciously programmed to repel the very prosperity they consciously desire. In this video, we are going to walk through that system together. 7 essential chapters, each one building on the last, each one revealing another layer of the mental method Bob Proctor devoted his life to sharing. By the time we are done, you will understand why you are where you are financially, and, more importantly, you will have a clear, actionable mental framework for changing it. Not someday. Not when conditions are right. This is not motivation. This is not hype. This is the application of timeless universal laws to the area of your life where most people feel the most stuck and the most shame. Bob Proctor believed every person alive was meant to be prosperous. Not as a reward. Not as luck. But as the natural result of learning how the mind works, and then using it correctly. Let's begin. There is a program running inside your mind right now, and you did not write it. It was written for you, by your environment, your parents, your teachers, your culture, and your early experiences. Mostly before you were 7 years old. Bob Proctor called this program the paradigm, and he considered understanding it the single most important step anyone could take toward financial freedom. A paradigm is a multitude of habits, habitual ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving that operate almost entirely below the level of conscious awareness. Your paradigm determines how you see money, how you talk about money, how you feel in the presence of money, and ultimately how much of it you allow into your life. Here is the key word, allow. Bob Proctor did not believe that money was something you chased. He believed it was something you allowed, by removing the internal barriers, the unconscious beliefs, and the inherited limitations that kept it at arm's length. Most people have a paradigm that says money is scarce, that wealthy people are greedy, that wanting more is selfish, or that rich people are just lucky. These are not facts. These are programs. And programs can be changed. The frustrating thing about paradigms is that they are invisible. You cannot see your own paradigm the way you cannot see your own eyes. You can only see its effects in your bank balance, in your habits, in the opportunities you recognize or fail to recognize. Bob Proctor used a powerful analogy. The paradigm is like a thermostat. If the thermostat in a room is set to 68 degrees, and you open the windows and let in cold air, the heating system kicks in and brings the temperature back to 68. Your financial life works the same way. If your inner thermostat is set at a certain level of income, you will unconsciously sabotage anything that tries to push you beyond it. This is why lottery winners return to their previous financial state within a few years. This is why people who receive large inheritances often lose them. The outer conditions changed, but the inner thermostat did not. The paradigm pulled everything back to its set point. The first step in the mental method for financial prosperity is honest self-examination. You must look at your results, not what you wish for, not what you plan, but your actual results, and recognize that those results are the perfect expression of your current paradigm. This is not a moment for self-criticism. It is a moment for clarity. Your paradigm was installed without your conscious consent. It is not your fault. But the moment you see it clearly, it becomes your responsibility to change it. Bob Proctor often said, "If you see it in your mind, you will hold it in your hand." The reverse is equally true. If you cannot see it in your mind, if your paradigm blocks the image, your hands will remain empty, no matter how hard they work. To change your paradigm, you must first understand the architecture of your mind. Bob Proctor drew heavily on the work of Dr. Thurman Fleet and the mental science tradition when he described the mind as operating on two distinct but interconnected levels: the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. The conscious mind is the part of you that is reading these words right now. It is your thinking, reasoning, analytical self. It has the remarkable ability to choose, to accept or reject any idea that enters it. It is the gatekeeper. The subconscious mind, by contrast, cannot reason. It cannot reject. It accepts whatever the conscious mind impresses upon it, and then it works, with absolute, tireless devotion, to bring that impression into physical reality. Bob Proctor called it the greatest power in the universe. Here is where most people go wrong. They try to change their financial results by changing their conscious thinking alone. They read books, attend seminars, make budgets, and set goals. All of that is valuable. But if the subconscious mind has not been reprogrammed, it will continue to generate the same old results, because the paradigm lives in the subconscious, not the conscious mind. Think of it this way. Your conscious mind sets the goal: I want to earn $250,000 this year. Your subconscious mind, still running its old program, responds, "That's not safe. That's not who we are. That's not what people like us do." And quietly, invisibly, it steers you away from the very actions and opportunities that would make the goal real. The space between the conscious and subconscious is where the real work of transformation happens. Bob Proctor taught that you must learn to deliberately impress new ideas, new images, new beliefs, new self-concepts, upon the subconscious mind through repetition, emotion, and vivid imagination. This is not wishful thinking. This is applied psychology, rooted in decades of research and centuries of spiritual wisdom. The subconscious mind responds most powerfully to images charged with feeling. When you vividly imagine yourself living in financial abundance, and feel it as real, you are planting a new seed in the most fertile soil in existence. Bob Proctor often described this process as moving from knowing to believing. Most people know they could earn more. Knowing lives in the conscious mind. But believing lives in the subconscious, and it is belief, not knowledge, that drives behavior. The goal of the mental method is to take your financial vision from conscious knowledge to subconscious belief. Once that happens, your actions change automatically. You begin to see opportunities you were blind to before. You begin to make decisions from a different place. You begin to attract different results, as Bob Proctor taught again and again. Your beliefs are not the truth. They are just ideas you have accepted as true. And ideas, once accepted, can be replaced. That replacement is the heart of this entire method. Bob Proctor was relentless on one point. You must have a clear, specific image of the prosperity you desire before the outer world can deliver it. Not a vague wish. Not a general preference. A precise, vivid, emotionally charged mental picture. He called this the originating step, the seed from which everything else grows. This principle flows from a foundational truth that Proctor borrowed from the great mental scientists, Everything that has ever been created by human hands was first created in someone's mind. The building, the business, the bank account, all of it began as a thought image, an impression in consciousness. Most people have a muddled, contradictory, half-hearted relationship with their financial desires. They want more money, but they feel guilty wanting it. They dream of abundance, but they dismiss the dream as unrealistic within seconds of having it. They set goals, but they don't believe they are truly worthy of achieving them. Bob Proctor taught that this internal contradiction is the root cause of financial stagnation. You cannot move powerfully toward a destination you don't believe you deserve to reach. The image and the belief must align, and both must be clear and strong. The practice he recommended was simple but demanding. Sit quietly, every single day, and construct in your mind a vivid, detailed image of your desired financial reality. Not the how, that is not your job. Just the what. What does your life look, feel, and sound like when you are living in genuine financial prosperity? This image must be specific. Being rich is not an image. Having $500,000 in my savings account, a home I love, the freedom to work on what I choose, and the ability to give generously to causes that matter to me, that is an image. Specificity is what gives the subconscious mind something to work with. The image must also be visited with emotion. Proctor was emphatic about this. Thought alone is weak. Thought combined with feeling is powerful. When you imagine your abundant life and allow yourself to feel the joy, the freedom, the gratitude, the relief, you are charging the image with energy that penetrates the subconscious mind far more deeply. Many people resist this practice because it feels like self-deception. How can I feel wealthy when my bank account says otherwise? Bob Proctor's answer was always the same. The feeling is not a lie, it is a rehearsal. You are training your mind to recognize abundance as your natural state, so that your subconscious will begin to act accordingly. Often pointed out that every great achiever throughout history practiced some form of mental imagery. Athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, inventors, they all understood, consciously or intuitively, that the inner image precedes the outer reality. The image you hold in your mind is the blueprint of your future. Guard it fiercely. Refine it regularly. Visit it daily with emotion and conviction. This is not a peripheral practice. It is the engine of the entire mental method. Bob Proctor built much of his teaching on a principle most people find surprising at first. Everything in the universe, including money, is energy vibrating at a frequency. And you, as a conscious being, are also energy vibrating at a frequency. The frequency you vibrate at determines what you attract into your life. This is not mysticism. It is a reflection of what physics has demonstrated for over a century, that matter is not solid, that energy is the fundamental substance of reality, and that everything vibrates. Bob Proctor simply applied this truth to human consciousness and financial results. The frequency at which a person vibrates is determined primarily by their emotional state. Fear, doubt, resentment, and scarcity consciousness vibrate at low frequencies, frequencies that repel abundance and attract more of the same limiting conditions. Gratitude, confidence, love, and expectancy vibrate at high frequencies, frequencies that are in harmony with prosperity. This is why Proctor placed such enormous emphasis on how you feel, not as an indulgence, but as a practical, strategic matter. Your feelings are your frequency. Your frequency is your signal. And the universe, your subconscious mind, the people around you, the opportunities that appear, responds to your signal. Most people try to change their feelings by changing their circumstances. They think, when I have more money, I'll feel better. But Proctor taught the reverse. You must feel better first, and the circumstances will follow. This is the hardest principle to accept and the most transformational one to master. Gratitude is the single most powerful frequency elevator Proctor ever taught. He recommended beginning every day with a deep, sincere practice of gratitude, not for what you hope to have, but for what you already have. This shifts the vibration immediately, powerfully, and measurably. The practice extends to money itself. Many people carry resentment, fear, or contempt toward money, feelings they absorbed from their paradigm without even knowing it. These feelings send a repelling signal. Proctor taught his students to develop a loving, respectful, appreciative relationship with money, to see it not as a corrupting force, but as a magnificent tool for good. Your self-concept is another critical component of your vibration. How you see yourself, the story you tell about who you are and what you are capable of, creates a powerful energetic field that either attracts or repels financial opportunity. A person who sees themselves as capable, worthy, and destined for prosperity moves through the world differently than someone who sees themselves as a victim of circumstance. Bob Proctor was not talking about toxic positivity or forced cheerfulness. He was talking about a deep, practiced, disciplined shift in your dominant mental and emotional state, a shift that, when sustained, becomes your new normal. Your new thermostat setting. He used to say, you don't attract what you want. You attract what you are. What you are, energetically, vibrationally, emotionally, is the most powerful force shaping your financial reality. Change what you are on the inside, and the outside cannot help but change. At some point in every transformation, there is a moment of decision. Not a tentative hope. Not a, maybe I'll try this. A definitive, irrevocable, burning decision that you are going to live differently, that you are going to have what you have chosen to have, no matter what. Bob Proctor believed this decision was the turning point, the moment the universe begins to reorganize around a new intention. Most people never make this decision. They flirt with their dreams. They dabble with ideas. They set goals they secretly don't believe in, then abandon them at the first sign of difficulty. Proctor called this wishing, and he had no patience for it. Wishing, he said, is what you do when you don't believe change is truly possible for you. A true decision, in the Proctor method, cuts off all alternatives. The word decide comes from the Latin decidere, to cut away. When you truly decide to become prosperous, you cut away the identity of the person who is not. You stop entertaining the story that poverty or struggle is your inevitable fate. You step fully into a new self-concept. This decision must be followed immediately by commitment, especially commitment to the process, not just the outcome. Proctor was clear. You may not see results immediately. The outer world often lags behind the inner shift. But the person who has truly decided does not interpret this lag as failure. They interpret it as part of the process point. One of the most important things Proctor taught about decision was this: decide on your goal first. Figure out how later. Most people do the opposite. They look at their current circumstances, calculate what seems realistic, and then set a goal based on what they can currently see. This keeps them permanently trapped at their current level. Proctor always pushed people to set goals that scared them a little, goals that were beyond what they could logically see a path to. Because those are the goals that force you to grow. Goals you already know how to reach don't require a paradigm shift. Goals that seem impossible do. And it is the paradigm shift that is the real prize. He recommended writing your goal in the present tense, as if it were already true. I am so happy and grateful now that money comes to me in increasing quantities through multiple sources on a continuous basis. This is a famous affirmation from the Proctor tradition, and it works because it instructs the subconscious in the language it understands best, present tense truth. The decision must also extend to your use of time. Proctor was direct. If you are serious about financial transformation, you must allocate time every single day to the inner work, to reading, to meditation, to affirmation, to visualization. Not when it's convenient. Every day. Like eating. Decision also means deciding who you spend your time with. The people around you either support your new self-concept or undermine it. Proctor did not say to abandon everyone who doesn't share your vision, but he did say to be protective of your mental environment, especially in the early stages of transformation. The moment of decision is sacred. If you have not yet made it, if you are still considering whether this is really possible for you, make it now. Not when you finish this video. Not after you've read one more book. Because now is the only moment in which a decision can ever actually be made. Bob Proctor was never opposed to action. He was opposed to uninspired action, action taken out of fear, desperation, or habit, disconnected from a clear inner vision. He believed that when the inner work is done correctly, action becomes a natural, joyful, almost irresistible expression of who you are becoming. He often quoted Martin Luther King Jr., "You don't have to see the whole staircase, just take the first step." This is the faith principle applied to financial transformation. You do not need a complete roadmap before you begin moving. You need clarity of destination, courage to take the first step, and trust that the next step will be revealed when you need it. Proctor distinguished between two kinds of action: activity and productive action. Activity is being busy. Productive action is movement toward your goal. Most people are drowning in activity, emails, meetings, tasks, obligations, while starving for productive action directed by a clear and burning intention. Inspired action feels different. It has an energy to it. It pulls you rather than pushing you. When you are aligned internally, when your conscious goal, your subconscious belief, and your emotional vibration are all pointing in the same direction, the actions you need to take become almost obvious. Ideas appear. Doors open. The right people show up at the right time. This is what Proctor meant when he talked about the law of attraction in a practical context. It is not sitting and wishing. It is the combination of inner alignment and outer movement, so synchronized that results begin to multiply in ways that feel almost miraculous, but are simply the natural consequence of working with universal law rather than against it. Point one of Proctor's most powerful teachings about action was on the subject of service. He believed deeply that the path to greater financial prosperity ran directly through greater service to others, that the value you deliver to the world determines the money that flows back to you. This is not a soft, idealistic notion. It is a law. He often told the story of Andrew Carnegie, who understood that the best way to accumulate great wealth was to become genuinely, extraordinarily useful to enormous numbers of people. When you solve problems, create value, and serve at the highest level you are capable of, the financial reward follows as naturally as water flows downhill. Proctor also emphasized taking action on your intuition, those quiet nudges, unexpected ideas, and sudden insights that arise during meditation or moments of stillness. He believed these impulses were communications from the deeper mind, guiding you toward your goal along paths your conscious mind could not have mapped. Fear is the most common reason people don't act. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of success, fear of the unfamiliar. Bob Proctor's answer to fear was characteristically direct: do the thing you fear, and the death of fear is certain. Action is not the reward for courage, it is the source of it. The mental method is not passive. It requires daily, devoted, faith-filled action. Action chosen not by what is comfortable or familiar, but by what is aligned with your vision. Every day, ask yourself, is what I am doing right now moving me toward my goal? If the answer is no, stop. If the answer is yes, keep going. And go with everything you have. There is a law that governs growth, in nature and in finances alike, the law of gestation. Every seed has an incubation period, a time between planting and harvest during which nothing visible is happening on the surface, but everything essential is happening underground. Bob Proctor spent enormous amounts of time teaching people to respect this law, to not pull up the seed in search of the root. Most people abandon their goals and their inner work during the gestation period. They do everything right for a few weeks, see no results, conclude that it doesn't work, and retreat back to their old ways. What they do not understand is that they were days from their breakthrough. Proctor used the analogy of the bamboo tree, which spends its first 4 years growing roots underground with no visible growth above the surface, and then, in the 5th year, shoots up 90 feet in 6 weeks. The person watching from the outside sees a miracle. The person who planted and tended the tree sees the inevitable result of patient, faithful cultivation. Prosperity compounds. This is true financially, through the mathematics of interest and investment, but it is also true mentally. Every day that you spend reinforcing your new paradigm, holding your image, maintaining your high vibration, and taking inspired action, you are adding to a compounding momentum that grows invisibly until the day it erupts into visible results. When the harvest begins, and it will begin, Proctor's teaching does not end. In fact, one of the most dangerous moments in the journey is early success. Why? Because early success can tempt you back into unconscious living. You relax the practices. You stop doing the inner work. And slowly, the old paradigm reasserts itself. The wealthy people Bob Proctor most admired were those who had made prosperity their permanent way of being, not a destination they arrived at, but an identity they had fully inhabited. They did not work hard to maintain their wealth, they simply continued to be who they had become. The wealth was a natural expression of that identity. Giving is one of the most powerful accelerants to the prosperity harvest. Bob Proctor taught tithing and giving as principles that open the channel of receiving. Not as transactions, not give this to get that, but as expressions of an abundance mentality that signals to the subconscious, there is more than enough. And the universe, reading that signal, confirms it as prosperity grows, your responsibility to others grows with it. Proctor believed that wealth held without purpose eventually stagnates. Money in motion, money used to create, to serve, to solve, to elevate, is money that multiplies. Prosperity that gives itself away returns 100-fold. Your harvest will look different from anyone else's. Prosperity is personal. For some it is financial independence, for others it is freedom of time, for others it is the ability to pursue meaningful work. Bob Proctor never imposed a definition. He simply insisted that you have the right and the capacity to live in whatever form of abundance truly lights you up. He said it thousands of times, on stages all over the world, to audiences of 10 and 10,000, "You are the only problem you will ever have. And you are the only solution." The harvest you reap is the harvest you planted, in your mind, with your beliefs, through your actions, over time. Plant well, tend faithfully, and trust the law. What you have just received is not a set of tips. It is a system, a complete, proven, time-tested mental method for transforming your relationship with money and calling genuine prosperity into your life. Bob Proctor did not invent these principles. He discovered them, lived them, tested them against the fire of his own experience, and then gave his entire life to teaching them. The paradigm shift, the two-mind system, the power of the image, the role of vibration, the necessity of decision, the courage of action, the patience of the harvest, these are not 7 separate ideas. They are 7 interlocking dimensions of a single, unified truth. Your financial life is an inside job. The real question is not whether these principles work. They work. The question is whether you will work with them, consistently, daily, devotedly, even when you cannot yet see results. That is the challenge Bob Proctor placed before every audience he ever addressed. Not to merely understand the method, but to live it. To make it your practice, your discipline, your way of moving through the world. The difference between the person who reads about this and the person who changes their life because of it is simply one thing: application. Repeated, persistent, faith-filled application. If Bob Proctor were standing in front of you right now, he would look you in the eye, and with that quiet, unshakable certainty he carried for 60+ years, he would say, "You have everything you need to live the life you truly want. Everything. The only thing standing between you and it is a thought you haven't changed yet. Change the thought. Change your life. That thought can change today. It can change right now. The only decision left is yours. Make it."